Welcome back to Auto Tech, where we explore the latest and greatest in the world of high-performance cars and bikes.
Welcome back to another episode of our weekly Moto News Update, where this week we'll be looking at BMW's updated boxer-powered Roadster, another phenomenally expensive special edition from Ducati, more details of a new scrambler from Triumph that have leaked through, and some tempting test ride deals from a couple of the major manufacturers. Then Honda have won perhaps an unlikely design award, Moto Morini have updated their middleweight adventure bike, Harley's CEO, perhaps unsurprisingly, will retire, and we'll finish up with a crazy-looking custom Rocket 3 that recently caught my eye. First up, though, that new R1300R from BMW, which follows on from the R1300 GS and GSA, both of which got updated last year. That saw their Boxer twin boost up in capacity from the 1250, and so naturally you'd expect the rest of their Boxer-powered bikes to follow suit, and that's exactly what they've done with the R1300R. Naturally, this means a nice little boost in performance from 136 horsepower on the previous gen to 143, and from 143 Nm of peak torque up to 149. Again, as with the GS's, there's also a major change to the chassis, with the old tubular steel frame making way for sheet metal with a cast aluminium subframe. It doesn't seem to do much for the weight though, with it still coming in around 239 kilograms curb, although perhaps the new wheel design, which they say sheds 1.4 kilograms between the pair, will actually give you more of a sense of agility out on the road, with less rotating and unsprung mass having a more profound effect on the riding dynamics. Now, the riding position is also said to be a little more sporty than the previous Gen 1250, with lower, flatter handlebars, and the pegs moved back a bit to get the rider more so over the front wheel. And while the standard seat height is still pretty low at 785mm, well, you got a couple of options in the accessories catalogue, including both a low and high seat. The low takes 25mm off, so I guess down to 760mm, which is really very low, whereas the high seat goes up by 20mm to 805, which I think sounds more to my taste. Now, visually, of course, the bike is updated too, looking more sweeping and modern than the 1250, a lot of which I guess comes from the new chassis, but also the bodywork revision and the new headlight. Then the technology suite is also significantly expanded as per many of the features found on the new GS's, with keyless ignition, 3 riding modes, and their dynamic ESA electronic suspension all fitted as standard. Then, if you're willing to fork out for it, you can also get their DSA suspension, which is a bit of an upgrade and can also self-adjust the spring rate, a front-facing radar for active cruise control and front collision warnings, and then also their ASA or automated shift assistant, which replaces the traditional clutch and shifter with electronic actuators, so you can run it as a twist and go automatic. Now, pricing for this one starts at about 13 grand for the base bike, and then steadily rises up to over 16 grand for the TE version with the ASA spec'd up. So look, not cheap, but then there aren't that many bikes like it on the market, with it being a fairly sensible take on the sporty naked format, with the torque-focused engine rather than top-end revs, and a fairly weighty but cushy chassis. I'm sure it'll sell every bit as well as the last one though, and as always, I'd love to know what you think of it down in the comments below. So from the sensible to the completely unsensible, there's also a new bike this week from Ducati, and it's their latest tie-up with Lamborghini. They've done a couple of these collaborations in the past with the Diavel and the Street Fighter, but this time it's the turn of their latest generation Panigale V4S, and I gotta say, it definitely makes an impact. There's carbon bodywork, a new forged wheel design, a punchy black and fluo paint job, and they're all intended to reference the Lamborghini Revuelto. And so while it's not your typical Ducati finish, I will say I do rather like it. On top of that, there's a titanium Akropovich silencer, and so they've found a couple of kilos of weight savings in total for a new wet weight figure without fuel of 185 kilograms. Now, power is also up thanks to new ECU settings, and so there's 218.5 on tap, which combined with that lower weight figure helps to give this bike a marginally improved power to weight ratio of 1.18 horsepower per kilograms, although having recently ridden the regular £30,000 Panigale V4S on the road, I'd probably say it didn't particularly need it. Still, this one is all about excess, with a whole bunch of extras on board, including a dedicated seat, a plexiglass racing windscreen, a dry clutch, a numbered billet triple clamp, and then a range of track-specific accessories like the open clutch cover, racing fuel cap, license plate removal kit, and carbon brake cooling ducts. The price though, well, as you'd expect, it's astronomical at £67,000, which is well over double the price of a standard V4S at $29,995. Who on earth would pay double for a paint job, I hear you ask? Well, I should point out that since updating the Panigale V4 last year, this is already the third special edition and it's not even the most expensive. There was the Tricolor at £48,000, then the Tricolor Italia at £75,000, and so clearly there's a market for them if they're banging them out at this rate. Plus, this is also off the back of Ducati's recently announced financial results for 2024, which saw them generate over $1 billion in revenue for the third year in a row. This was achieved, they say, despite selling fewer bikes than the year before, and that's because they're doubling down on their strategy of producing primarily premium products. So while it might seem unfathomable that someone would pay double for an already expensive Panigale, well, my friends, it seems to be working for them, and so who can blame them? If that's a bit out of budget then, well, perhaps Triumph's upcoming Scrambler 400XC could be more of interest. We showed some spy shots of it a few episodes back, with it basically taking the existing Scrambler 400X and giving it a bit more off-road capability with the spoke wheels and extra hardware. But since then, we've got these shots of what looks like the finished article out on the road, and so this one looks like an absolute certainty that shouldn't be too far off being fully announced. Visible in these pictures, there's the tubeless spoke wheels, a high mount front mudguard, a decent looking bash plate, a mini fly screen, and of course the vivid yellow paint job to cap it all off. I reckon this could make for a really good little versatile retro, but as always, let me know what you think of it in the comments. Meanwhile, over at KTM, they're still pulling out all the stops to get customers through the door, and so from the 11th of April to the 11th of May this year, they'll be running their Orange Days demo events at dealers across the UK, and you'll also find Hay Days events for Husqvarna as well. At both of these, you'll find some super low finance deals with 0% on most of their off-road lineups and 4.9% on a wide range of pretty much most their street bikes. To find out more and book in for a demo ride at one of these events, apparently give your local dealer a shout and they'll hook you up. Also looking to get bums on seats, we've got a demo price from Yamaha, who are giving away an MT-07 fitted with their AMT Auto box to one lucky pilot who takes a demo with one of their dealers till June 29th this year. They say the more demos you take, the more entries you get as well. So again, another good reason to drop into your local Yamaha dealer. Now, if you've ever heard of the Red Dot Design Awards, you'll know they're one of the best known product and industrial design competitions, and in the past they've given a nod to bikes like the Ducati Diavo V4 or Yamaha's MT-09. This year though, it's something that you might consider to be a little less sexy, but perhaps a worthy winner from a practicality and utility perspective, and that's the humble Honda NC750X. Commuters across the globe will probably vouch for the frugality and ease of use, with a torquey twin that chugs along efficiently, a low-slung centre of mass, a frunk to store your lid in, and their DCT box available for simple automatic riding. And so while it might not be the bike that immediately springs to mind when you dream of a lottery win, well, perhaps it's still fair enough to get this award. Now, the latest Euro 5 Plus emissions regulations have been forcing many manufacturers to update their bikes for 2025, making sure they run clean enough to still be allowed to be on sale, and often also taking the chance to issue some other minor updates. But Moto Morini have perhaps done something a little more meaningful with their affordable middleweight adventure bike, with the Escape 650's engine being updated with 3mm more stroke, which means it gets a boosting capacity from 649cc to 693. That means it's now called the Escape 700, and it gets an 18% boost in power from 60 horses peak up to 70, with a decent extra dollop of torque as well. Then there's a slip assist clutch as standard now, a new exhaust design, an easier to access oil filter, and then an adjustable windscreen that now sits a little bit taller, along with a standard fit centre stand. At £6,999, it really does look like a decent deal, and while Chinese in build, the Italian Morini design adds a little bit of flair. We've got a full review of the 650 on the channel, so do check that out if you like the look of it. And of course, we'll be trying to get hold of a 700 at some point to see if it's as much of an improvement out on the road as it looks to be on the spec sheet. Over at Harley, we've recently reported on their less than ideal results with a drop in sales across the globe last year, and so it might not be a big surprise that their CEO, Jochen Zeitz, is stepping down. Harley issued a statement that the board of directors at Harley-Davidson today confirmed that it's engaged in an ongoing CEO search process as part of the board's succession planning responsibilities. The search process was initiated in Q4 2024 with the retention of a leading executive search firm after Jochen Zeitz, the current CEO, expressed an interest in retiring from the company in 2025 after 5 years in the CEO position and subject to the appointment of a suitable successor. Harley really do seem to be in a sticky patch at the moment, and I'm not sure who'd really be wanting that gig. And so I'd love to know from you in the comments if you think someone can realistically turn things around, or is the unaffordability of such an expensive toy a fundamental problem that will be impossible to solve in the current climate? Now, I thought I'd wrap up this week with a custom Triumph Rocket 3 that I recently saw on Instagram, built by Box 39 Motorcycles. It's called Agostina, and it's probably the most stunning looking custom rocket that I've ever seen, with bespoke wheels and bodywork that I think completely transform the looks. The rims are much larger in diameter than the balloon tire vibe on the standard rocket, and the bronze and gunmetal finish looks super stealthy to me. What a beauty!
Thanks for joining us in this video. If you found this content engaging, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking insights. And remember, your comments are invaluable to us, so share your thoughts below. And may the wealth be with you.